by our first responders is something that moves me to get up every morning to continue to do this work.
Mayor, as the leader, I mean, I can see the emotion on your face. When you're speaking to other leaders, you know, around the city, if not the state, the country, how do you help the situation here? How do you lead? What do you say? What's the message to these families today?
Oh, I don't think anything I can say can help the people that have lost loved ones. But I think for us, we have to just be there. And I think that's what we'll do. We'll continue to stand in the gap in that and try to give them the space and grace that they need during this time.
Do you see any changes in the near future? Have you thought about that in terms of safety protocol or how you can avoid things like this happening?
Look, I think the police and our first responders have done an amazing job. Clearly, the question has to be raised: why does Dayton have to be the 250th mass shooting in America? 250. I mean, that's really the question.
When you say that number, are you talking about this year? Or?
This year. We are El Paso is 249, Dayton was 250 this year.
What type of surveillance video or cameras do businesses in the Oregon District have that may be valuable to your investigation?
Many businesses do have security cameras and video, and obviously we're checking to see what is available and to use that as part of our investigation. So some of that has already been done, some of that is to be done.
Do you have any idea how many people may have been in the district last night? Hundreds, thousands?
Oh, it'll be thousands. It's a Saturday night in the district in the summer. So I mean, you know, and it was 110. I mean, there's thousands.
There were initial reports that has something to do with the shooter being denied access to the club. Is there any truth to that? Is that?
I'm not aware of that information, but like I said, it's still early in the investigation. But I have not heard that.
And we know you guys are.
The shooter was local.
We
I'm
can't,
not going to comment
we can't comment on that
his
yet.
identity.
Yeah.
Did he reload?
I'm not going to get into those specifics just yet. We'll release. I know everyone here who is local knows that we provide very detailed information on critical incidents, and we'll do the same here. It's obviously going to take us a little bit of time to get some of that detail to you.
Mayor, do you know what time you were first contacted about the shooting?
I think I got a text around 2:40. Yeah, I think around that time.
I wanted to clarify something on the timeline. Is that less than a minute from when the police first got a call about it, or less than a minute after the shooting first began?
Less than a minute after the shooting first began.
So they were right there.
They were there.
They were in the immediate vicinity and acted immediately.
Correct. They were there.
Okay.
And these were uniformed officers? Do you have officers that work part-time off-duty jobs?
They were uniformed officers working in
The Oregon District.
in the Oregon District.
So I mean, that's. I really want to. You all need to think about that a minute. If the officers were not in the Oregon District, the officers were there less than a minute from the beginning of the shooting. The shooter was able to kill 9 people and injure 26 in less than a minute. And if we did not have police in the Oregon District and the thousands of people in the Oregon District enjoying their Saturday evening, what we could have had in the city. So it is a terrible day for Dayton, but I am so grateful for Dayton Police's fast action. Okay, we'll be back. Remember our deal. No bad information. In return, I'll come see you every few hours. We will. All right?
Do you have a time of when you guys are coming?
I think we're going to come back at 10 a.m. Okay?
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Whaley.
So an update there from the mayor of Dayton, Ohio, Nan Whaley, very emotional. And of course, the assistant police chief there, Matt Carper, also giving us an indication of a little bit more of what happened. At least 9 dead, 16 injured. We found out from that press conference, the mayor calling it a terrible day, that there was one individual that carried this out. He came armed with body armor, a long gun, a .223. He had additional magazines. Not a whole lot new details, but certainly you can see from the mayor and the officials there, they've been hit hard there. This is Dayton, Ohio's population of 140,000. That Oregon district there certainly would have been, because of the bars and restaurants area, a pretty populated area for that small community. Yeah. But the thing that really stood out from that was that the police responded in less than 1 minute to neutralize that shooter.
Yeah. We also have a tweet from Ohio Governor Mike DeWine from moments ago saying, "I commend Dayton police and other first responders for their bravery and quick response to save lives and bring an end to this tragedy. I have ordered that flags in Ohio remain at half-mast in honor and memory of victims who lost their lives this morning."
Yeah, what those police do, running to the sounds.
Outside a popular bar right around 1 a.m. Eastern time. Police say the suspect had a long gun and wore body armor. Officers shot him within 1 minute of that first shots fired call. The mayor of Dayton commending first responders just moments ago.
Well, this is a terribly sad day for our city. I am amazed by the quick response of Dayton police that saved literally hundreds of lives.
This morning, the FBI is on scene. So far, no word on a motive.
The shooting in Ohio comes hours after another deadly shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. A gunman opened fire on a busy Saturday afternoon, killing 20 people and injuring dozens more.
It was the most horrendous thing I ever saw, brother. And I saw the shooter maybe 20 feet from me. Just started shooting.
A 21-year-old suspect is in custody. Governor Greg Abbott vowing to prosecute anyone responsible to the max.
Listen, this is disgusting, intolerable. It's not Texan, and we are going to aggressively prosecute it both as capital murder, but also as a hate crime, which is exactly what it appears to be.
Alyssa Maisner from our affiliate in El Paso is here with the latest. Alyssa.
Yeah, guys, it's really a somber mood here now, almost 19 hours after tragedy struck this Walmart here in East El Paso. 20 killed, 26 injured. You can see behind me a very active scene still. El Paso police, sheriff, deputy, state troopers still here investigating, expected to be here for quite a while. Now, we are expecting a press conference update at about 10 o'clock local time, but what we do know is that yesterday morning at about 10:30, a 21-year-old white male shooter entered the Walmart, killing 20 and injuring 26, leaving behind a very graphic scene. Now, he was arrested just about a block and a half away from here shortly after. Without incident, he was taken into custody alive and is now sitting in jail on a capital murder charge. But, you know, really the question now is why here? Why El Paso was attacked? And the El Paso Police Chief Greg Allen tells us that they found a manifesto that they believe was written by that shooter, filled with very racist and hateful language. And it's believed that this could have been possibly a hate crime, as you heard from Governor Greg Abbott from just a moment ago. So that's the consideration now. But really the community is just in mourning. We want to let you listen into El Paso Mayor Dee Margo reacting just a few hours ago.
Mayor, how do you get our city ready for 20 funerals?
I don't know. We've never done this before. I would hope and pray we'd never have to do it again. But we'll do it. And we're going to survive because that's who we're all. That's what we're about.
You know, the community really just again shaken here. You know, people have been sending us messages. They're afraid to sleep tonight. Some even thinking that they may have heard gunshots in their neighborhood. But El Paso police told us that there are no other incidents of any confirmed shootings or any active threats. Again, support pouring in from the community. We want to quickly show you the tweet from Senator Ted Cruz from just a few hours ago. My heart is with everyone in El Paso struck by this unspeakable evil, and that really is evil. The only way to describe what happened here. We'll be continuing to follow this story and bring you the very
police officer says there is more to the story. An attorney speaking on behalf of Finnegan Elder's parents says people have been jumping to conclusions.
The public has an incomplete account of the true versions of the events. We look forward to the truth coming out and to our son coming home.
Police say both Elder and his friend confessed to being involved in the murder of the undercover officer. Court documents allege Elder didn't know the man was an officer and thought he was being attacked. And Hillary Clinton is reminding people to vote for Democrats because it's hot in Greenland. Clinton tweeting this: a massive heat wave has caused the Greenland ice sheet to melt at rates not projected until 2070. We are in a climate emergency. Vote accordingly. A Danish climate scientist says there will be less melting ice later this week once it cools down. Jed?
The Pentagon preparing to withdraw thousands of troops from Afghanistan as part of a proposed peace deal with the Taliban.
With respect to Afghanistan, we've made a lot of progress. We're talking, but we've also made a lot of progress. We're reducing it. We've been there for 19 years. We're really serving as policemen, and that's not for our soldiers.
Here to weigh in is former U.S. Army Green Beret Officer Ben Collins. Ben, thanks for joining us this morning. You know this process intimately. You've been involved in understanding what sort of a peace deal would look like. Where are we right now, and are we making the right kind of deal, Ben?
Well, thanks, Pete. Look, I think the bottom line is no, we're not making the right kind of deal. I think we're about to make a very bad deal, and no deal is better than a bad deal, and nobody knows that better than this president. Look, it comes down to understanding exactly who the Taliban are. And the Taliban, for 19 years, their entire identity, what they have told their soldiers is they are going to fight until the last American and foreign soldier is gone. Then they're going to overthrow the government of Afghanistan and take over once again. And everything they do is to that end. So anything that they're going to agree in this deal, they're going to weigh that against what it will do to their movement. So I don't know what's inside the deal, but I can tell you there is not going to be a ceasefire. There won't be an agreement to really talk to the government of Afghanistan. And in the bottom line, Pete, all they're doing is waiting time before they overthrow the government of Afghanistan. And al-Qaeda is already waiting in the wings to come in and resume control. And all they're going to do is declare victory against the United States. And I think that's a horrible place to be for us.
You know, Ben, I have to ask you what some might deem a naive question, but when I see the words negotiated with the Taliban, that makes me uncomfortable and nervous. Is there a way to negotiate with them and have it actually be effective and believe anything that they actually say?
No, that's actually a great question. Look, I think over the last year and a half, we've almost treated them like diplomats, like true diplomats of a legitimate country, which they're not. This is a terrorist group. To the point, I mean, the government of Afghanistan should be involved much more than they are. But no, your question is on point. There is no way. We've seen them make promises before. You know, at the end of the day, even something as simple as saying we denounce al-Qaeda, they have been unwilling to do. They're not going to do. And unless that's part of this deal, you know, I don't think we should believe anything they say. Their behavior, unlike ours over the last 18 years, has been completely the same over 19 years.
Ben,
and so, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me just show you the DOD gave us a statement to Fox and Friends saying this: our strategy in Afghanistan is conditions-based. Our troops will remain in Afghanistan at appropriate levels so long as their presence is required to safeguard U.S. interests. We know these talks are apparently between the Taliban and Zalmay Khalilzad, which is a Afghan-born diplomat. Do you have any hope that there is some progress made, even if this deal that you say isn't a good one?
Well, look, I think the progress that's been made has been tactically, you know, on the ground. I mean, the point has always been to maintain enough pressure on the Taliban so that they would be willing to come to the negotiating table in a legitimate fashion. But so far, they have not. Now, General Miller has increased his operations in Afghanistan, you know, the commander, our commander there, and has done great damage. I mean, the Taliban are in Afghanistan are hurting. You know, it's always the Taliban leadership that's in Pakistan that's not getting shot at, that always wants the war to continue. But the fact is, we've made it clear that we were desperate for a deal, and the Taliban know that, and they are taking everything that they possibly can. Look, I agree with President Trump. We should not be the policeman. We can reduce the troops. He can keep his campaign promise. But at the end of the day, you are going to be giving al-Qaeda and the other jihadists a win. And so let's not be the world's policeman, but let's still continue to take the fight to the terrorists.
Yeah, and you can do that even with less troops as well, a point you make in a great op-ed.
Absolutely.
Ben Collins, thank you very much for your insight. We'll stay in touch.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, well, we brought you all live pictures yesterday when I teamed up with Navy SEALs to swim with him. Are 3 SEALs who swam with us: Matt McCabe, Ken Bigby, and Kaj Larson. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. You're wearing a lot more today than you were yesterday. And Kaj, I got to give you were my swimming buddy the entire time. He literally pulled me through the water for us. He said to me, "Grab onto my shorts, I'll swim." I'm not kidding.
And he's not that light, Kaj.
And for 30 seconds, it was like I was following Superman through the water. So it truly was leave no man behind. And before we get you guys to comment, let's play a package of what went on yesterday. Watch.
Down, 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 down.
Pete is taking a little swim this morning.
I'm so excited for this today. Pete, tell us what you're going to do.
I know half the people say you're going to do great. Half the people say, "Well, do you even know how to swim? Is this even good? Is this even possible?"
Pete is going to undertake the challenge of swimming in the Hudson River for a good cause.
Across the Hudson River with about 30 Navy SEALs.
Pete is on his way now.
Ready?
There we go. You got some Navy SEALs getting ready for their swim across the Hudson River.
This whole thing is about honoring our fellow SEALs and about raising money to help veterans.
We have a saying in the teams, never leave a person behind. And so by doing this, we're not leaving anybody behind.
Well, don't leave me behind today. Now it's time to jump in the water.
History is being made here today. They are starting at Liberty State Park in Jersey City. They're swimming right near the Statue of Liberty, and then they're going to Ellis Island, and then they're making the really long swim across the Hudson to Battery Park, which is in Lower Manhattan.
It's a long ways to go for just this first leg.
You see the guy with the cap on?
The white cap.
That's Pete.
You got to look for the white cap. That is
Yes.
Pete, right in the middle there. Go,
Nice.
Pete.
Yeah, Pete.
Much respect to Navy SEALs. That's all I have to say. Holy cow.
You did such a good job. There was a little bit of a struggle kind of by the Statue of Liberty there.
Yes.
What was happening?
They say for purposes of time, I got towed a little bit of the way. I think it was mercy. This man right here, he said, "Grab my shorts and let me swim." And I just grabbed them.
It's all about teamwork, right?
Just a little assist, that's all.
Do I have it in me to finish the last 2 legs based on what you saw firsthand?
Well, my good Army friend, there's a reason we're the premier maritime commando force in the world.
Let's do it.
How are you feeling after leg 2?
Better.
Good.
Lost all my confidence in leg 1. But with the current and the guys I'm swimming with, this one was doable. And the backdrop, I mean, you're staring at the Statue of Liberty. My man was saying, how do you feel between a scale of America to 0? And I'd say it's America today.
All America, all America.
We got SEALs going in right now for the 3rd leg.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you
Boom!
go.
I love it. Now he's just showing off. Now he's showing off.
SEALs was amazing. We finished it up. But what an honor. Just came out in the water. Everybody's grabbing a flag, and we're going to be running to ground zero. What these men have given, how much they continue to give. God bless America. 34, Fox News.
Guys, it was such an honor to be just a small part of it. And Bill, you put this together, GI Go Fund, ultimately for a great cause.
A lot of good people came together, Pete, including yourself, including Fox News, and together we helped out a lot of veterans.
I hope we did help a lot of veterans.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Guys, what were you thinking about? What was going through your mind while we were swimming that river?
It was incredible. That first leg, there was a lot of current involved, so a few guys had some difficulties.
Like me?
After that, though, the second leg and third leg were great. We could have turtlebacked the whole way and made it.
Yeah.
Incredible event.
Indeed. Kenny, your thoughts?
It was entrance to the Walmart where that shooting happened. We're seeing state troopers coming in and out.
We're seeing sheriff's deputies, police officers, which is indignant on what's going on inside that scene. Lots of things to go through, lots of evidence, things to piece together as this shooting investigation continues. Now, we know this shooting, the first calls at least came in shortly after 10:30 a.m. local time. Some of the witnesses who were on scene say that it was a very chaotic scene. There was a lot of people here, too, upwards of 3,000 people trying to take advantage of the tax-free weekend and doing some back-to-school shopping. Witnesses also say that once the shooting did start and they could see the suspect, it appeared that he was just shooting at anybody that was moving, trying to kill as many people as he could.
I was putting the babies before myself because I just thought about if I had a child and if I wasn't around my child, how I would want another man to react if they see my child running around without me around.
That was U.S. Army Specialist Glenn Oakley, who stayed behind to try to get as many people as he could to safety. Now, police responded to the shooting within minutes and managed to take the suspected shooter, a 21-year-old white man from Allen, Texas, into custody without using any weapons or firing a single shot. 20 people died in this shooting and more than 24 were hurt in this shooting. 3 Mexican nationals, we've also confirmed, died in this shooting. The victims involved in this incident, whether they were killed or hurt, range from just 2 years old to people who were in their 80s. And here's Texas Governor Greg Abbott yesterday speaking about what happened in his state.
It's the toughest conversation anybody can even imagine having. Visiting with family members who are clutched with uncertainty about whether or not they lost a loved one. All we could do was to try to instill hope, comfort, and support.
Investigators are also looking into the possibility of this shooting being characterized as a hate crime. Right now, they're looking at a manifesto and trying to confirm if, in fact, the suspected shooter wrote it. In it, officials have described racist and anti-immigrant language, but police haven't gone any further into the details about what could possibly be a motive. They're also searching the home of the suspected shooter, which is in Allen, Texas, about a 10-hour drive away. And one other thing we want to touch on is just the spirit of this community here in El Paso. As we stand out here, we've seen people show up trying to give first responders coffee, give them food, and in some of that video you've seen there were lines of people lining up to donate blood. So it's incredible to see this community come together after such a horrific incident. Back to you.
Jeff, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Well, here to react, we've got, first of all, we'll give you President Trump's reaction as we bring in Darren Porcher as well. Here's how the president reacted to the attack in El Paso yesterday. He tweeted, "Today's shooting in El Paso, Texas was not only tragic, it was an act of cowardice. I know that I stand with everyone in this country to condemn today's hateful act. There are no reasons or excuses that will ever justify killing innocent people. Melania and I send our heartfelt thoughts and prayers to the great people of Texas." Now we'll bring in Dr. Darren Porcher, former NYPD lieutenant, U.S. Army veteran. Obviously, these acts are an act of cowardice. You're shooting innocent people that are unarmed. In the case of El Paso, what's your takeaway as far as the security protocols, how the police reacted, the number of people killed? What do we make of all this?
When I look at the El Paso shooting, I see a great reflection of what happened with the Nicholas Cruz shooting in Parkland. The shooting started in a parking lot, and the assailant advanced into the facility. And so when I look at what happened in Dayton, Ohio, it was a very different dynamic. This is something that occurred outside. So when we take in consideration an active shooter protocol, they primarily focus on how you deal with things inside the place where the shooting is occurring. However, when we have a shooting that happens on the street, believe it or not, it's safer for us as citizens because you have more room to escape. So one of the first things that we know, and you can attest to this, Pete, is covering concealment is the first thing that you think about. So when you're outside, you have trees, you have cars, there's an assemblance of different things that you can establish for covering concealment. Where you look at what happened in El Paso, you're in an open mall, and you have to search far greater for that covering concealment.
You know, Darren, in both cases, the police responded within minutes. I mean, really astounding work on their part. And I'm just curious what kind of preparation goes into drills that they may do in terms of law enforcement being prepared for unfortunate situations situations like this so that when something does strike, they are able to get there within moments and be able to act so efficiently?
Well, it's an ongoing task for police departments in terms of the active shooter protocols. This is something that's always evolving. So when I look at what happened in Dayton, Ohio, the interdiction happened with the shooter in less than a minute. It just by happenstance, the officers were in close proximity, so they were able to engage the shooter right away. Whereas what happened in El Paso, it took them a little more time because the officers had to not only respond to the location, but locate the assailant inside of that business. So you have two different dynamics. And the truth of the matter is, one of the things that we as law enforcement do in a place like New York City is we have a partnership with a lot of the local businesses, whereas the NYPD is able to get into the video feeds for businesses, and so they can establish a location for where the assailant is. I'm not too sure if they have that in a place like El Paso, Texas. But what I do think happened was there's a security network that works inside of that particular Walmart, and the police connected with that security network, and that's how they were able to lock into the feed and locate the assailant. Because remember, what's so interesting about this was they never shot the assailant, nor did the assailant fire at the officers, because he ran out of bullets, which is a great thing for law enforcement. But it goes back to it needs to be a constant sustainment practice in these active shooter protocols.
Darren, you mentioned in Dayton, the police reacted very quickly. Under 1 minute, this shooter had a body armor, a .223 long gun, additional magazines. The governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, tweeting this, saying I commend Dayton police and other first responders for their bravery and quick response to save lives and bring an end to this tragedy. I have ordered the flags in Ohio remain at half-mast in honor and memory of the victims who lost their lives this morning. What can we learn and take away from the response there?
I'll tell you, as a prior law enforcement officer, it sends chills down my spine whenever I hear of a .223 rifle on the scene, because that goes through your vest. The only type of body armor that can protect you from a .223 caliber is a ceramic vest. It's a very heavy and cumbersome vest. It's very difficult for you to maneuver with something like that. So when I take in consideration responding officers, this was a pure act of gallantry to walk into and go against a .223 rifle, because this is something that can clearly penetrate your vest. I think that they were heroes here. I salute them. The same holds true when we look at the an AK-47 down in El Paso, Texas.
An even higher caliber round.
But what's interesting, if you look at the videos that we've been watching all morning, you see an officer, a first responder, that has an M4 rifle, but at the same token, he's doubling as a medical first responder. So that really shows you what these officers are doing and what they're faced with on a day-to-day.
When you look at El Paso, a lot of people think instantly, hey, this is Texas. You've got a more armed citizenry there. But also, reports are that the Cielo Vista Mall, which the Walmart is attached to, is a gun-free zone as well. So as you think through this situation, does it surprise you that it was law enforcement 6 minutes later? Speak to that portion of it.
Well, I think the 6-minute response was the location of the assailant. I think they got there much quicker than that. But it takes time for you to establish the location. And so that being said, your heart is beating out of your chest when you're responding. We refer to these as gun runs. And then when you hear automatic gunfire to go into something like that, like I said, I saw officers that had M4 rifles, but the truth of the matter is the average responding officer is equipped with a sidearm, which is a 9mm. And so this is something that you really need to practice, but you need to get the heavy guns in there as quick as possible.
Dr. Darren Portrait, thank you for being here and giving us this insight.
All right. Thanks again.
Appreciate it.
All right.
We're going to turn to some headlines for you now. Iran's Revolutionary Guard reportedly seizes a third foreign oil tanker. Iranian state media reporting that the ship was carrying 700,000 liters of smuggled fuel. The ship's 7 crew members also reportedly detained Wednesday. This comes just 2 weeks after Iran seized a British tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. And turning to extreme weather, torrential tropical downpours threatening the southeast this morning, with more than 2 inches per hour expected in some spots. More than 4 inches of rain and flash flooding is possible for southern Florida. Days of rain swamping Orange County, trapping at least 9 drivers in their cars. Swimmers on high alert along a Florida beach after 2 shark bites within minutes of each other. A female surfer getting stitches for bites to her hand and wrist. Another male surfer also getting a minor bite on his foot. Police are investigating the size and type of shark that bit them. New Smyrna beaches.
Extremist terrorism. I was always mad that President Obama had this idea that he couldn't say Islamic extremist terrorism because it might offend someone. And so I think it's important today, this morning, to say that if you're out there and you're a white supremacist, or you think you are, or you're thinking about it, we renounce you. The conservative movement is a big tent. It's not big enough for you. You're not American. You're not patriotic. This isn't a country for you, and you need to seek help if you're a victim of abuse or illness. And if you do anything evil, we will find you. We will hunt you down. We will take you out, and we will never remember you, your name, your face, or anything about you. We renounce you. I don't know if that was the motive. I can't prescribe that to the person in El Paso. It's the believe motive, and it's a big talking point on social media today. And so I think that it's important that we say that. We've said it. People understand that. Sane people already know it. And so as we move forward, how can we keep our country safe and keep people of all walks of life safe? And that's the next part of this conversation.
Of course, that's why on this program we're not showing the image or naming the name of the shooter. They don't deserve that kind of recognition. But you know, on this program this morning, we're trying to play it straight. And I don't want to dip into politics, but of course, folks running for president end up doing that, and they immediately point to guns. How do we address this situation without saying we're talking about gun confiscation?
Well, we address the fact that this is a problem in this country where people do evil things, right? We are in a country that is so free that the responsibility and power of our freedom is great. And the only people in this country that can keep each other in check are one another. So see something, say something, are things that aren't just anecdotes. They're things that we have to do and act on. We are communities that hold ourselves together and respond. There's a hero. There are multiple heroes from both of these instances, and we need to praise them, understand how they acted, why they acted, be willing to do it ourselves, and then look for solutions that stop things like this from happening. Be open to ideas, but understanding that with every action is a reaction. Simply banning something doesn't make the country safer, in my opinion. If you have that argument, bring it to the table honestly, and we'll talk about it. Don't bring it to the table looking for a political win, which are what people running for president are doing, and it really, quite honestly, ticks me off.
And rightfully so. Joey, last thing real quick. In Dayton, Ohio, the first responders were there in under a minute, taking out the murderer that quickly. Your response to the kind of courage that requires that?
It's running straight to fire. There's no second thought. There's no second guessing. There's no self-preservation. The human beings and interspecies conflict, the theory is we have 4 types of response: fight, flight, posture, and submission. So 1 out of 4 of those is fight, and each and every one of those officers chose fight and saved people's lives. I commend them. The first time I got shot at, I can tell you my initial response was to freeze. The second time it was to fight. It took some training and conditioning, and so perhaps these people are heroes among us, and I hope there's more like them.
I had the same first response. It's something you don't get used to. Joey Jones, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. We continue to follow breaking news out of El Paso among the first responders.
Looking at this horrific shooting in El Paso, can you give us an update on the role of CBP in terms of assisting throughout this crisis?
Sure. First, I want to say that I actually lived and worked in El Paso for a couple of years. And I can tell you, it's an incredible city filled with incredible people. And one of the great things that I love was that the law enforcement community was some of the strongest relationships I've ever experienced in my 25 years of law enforcement. And yesterday's evil, hate-fueled event absolutely showed that. Customs and Border Protection personnel, we were there within minutes. We provided tactical support, medical support, aerial support. We have peer support and a whole host of other personnel that were on there immediately to help the El Paso PD do their job.
Mark, I want to ask you, obviously, Border Patrol officials down there in El Paso and everywhere in the country are returning to do their job on this border. Give us an update. We know Mexico is helping. We've also got more lawmakers visiting in areas like El Paso.
So, Griff, thanks for that question. And right now, the American people need to understand what's going on with the government of Mexico and why that's happening. Right now, the government of Mexico is assisting in unprecedented ways. They've got over 20,000 troops at their southern border, the U.S.-Mexico border, strengthening both of those borders, as well as their interior enforcement. And this is being driven by this president, but through his negotiations and this administration. That's why Mexico is stepping up. There's another another initiative called the MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocol. Through that program, we have sent 27,000 individuals to Mexico to wait while they're going through the asylum process. That's 27,000 individuals that we would have been in our holding areas are releasing to the United States. That's a game changer.
Mark, I got to ask, multiple groups of Republicans and Democrats, but Democrats have been heading down to the border, or plan to head down to the border, and yet the crisis continues and Congress is yet to move on it. Do you feel like what they'll see there will be received earnestly, and you'll have any shot of Congress doing something about the magnet that's being created to come to our country?
No, Pete, I have absolutely no faith that Congress is going to step up and do what they need to do. And that should disturb the American people. They know exactly what they need to do. Fix the floor settlement agreement where we can detain people more than 20 days, treat children from different countries the same so we can send them back to their families, and fix the beginning process of asylum. They know what they need to do. They've known that for a long time. They're not going to do it. So this administration has said, hey, look, we're going to continue to do initiatives within this legal framework, and we're continuing to do more every single day to address this crisis that Congress will not.
You know, Mark, CBP has released some shocking video showing smugglers dismantling an outdated border infrastructure near El Centro, California. How can anyone see that video and not understand the importance of not only border security, but of updating when you talk about a wall, when you talk about fencing? How could you not be on board with making these issues better when you see what's actually happening in a video like this?
Jedediah, I don't have a good answer for that, because you're exactly right. Look at that. Right now, what you're seeing, that is an area where brand new wall is going to be built. But the rhetoric is out there, as some are saying, well, no new wall has been built. Well, I guarantee you that spot right there that you're showing, that is going to be a brand new wall system. It's not just a wall. It's going to have integrated technology. It's going to have integrated lighting, access roads. And again, it's going to be part of that multi-layer strategy of infrastructure, technology, and personnel. We're building new wall every single week. I think we're up to about 55 miles. And with the Supreme Court decision, we're looking at over 450 new miles of wall that's going to be built. And that's absolutely going to help the Border Patrol strengthen the southwest border.
Mark, how concerned are you that this divisive issue, whether you're talking to a Republican visiting some of these shelters or a Democrat visiting it, that it has now become a political issue, and your guys, the law enforcement officers on the front line, are not going to get help in the near future? So, Griff, again, that is a great question that is so frustrating. The men and women of CBP, specifically Border Patrol, on the southwest border, they're doing their job every single day. They've been asked to do stuff that they were never trained to do on the humanitarian side. And they're frustrated, Griff. They're frustrated not because they're asked to be doing a whole bunch of stuff, but they're frustrated because Congress is not acting to do their job, to give them the resources, change the loopholes in the laws so that they can safeguard this border. That's why they're frustrated.
Yeah, Mark, I don't have any expectation that they're going to come together. This is now everything has become a political talking point as we head to 2020. So I have no expectation that Democrats are going to help President Trump out on this issue, unfortunately. But as always, appreciate you being here.
Thanks for the work you do, Mark.
Mark, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate all of your officers down in El Paso coming to rescue. All right, we continue following breaking news out of Texas. 20 people killed and 26 hurt in a shooting in El Paso. The mayor of that city, Dean Margo, joined us so far. Overnight, 9 people killed in Ohio after a shooter ambushed downtown Dayton last night.
830 dispatch. We got shots fired. We got multiple people down. We're going to need multiple medics.
I got everybody coming to you.
26 others now confirmed hurt. The gunman, armed with a long gun and several magazines, opened fire outside a popular bar around 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Police say the suspect wore body armor. Officers stopped the threat within 1 minute of that first shots fired call.
This morning, the FBI is on scene. So far, no word on a motive.
The shooting in Ohio comes hours after another deadly shooting at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas. A gunman opened fire yesterday afternoon, killing 20 people and injuring dozens more.
It was the most horrendous thing I ever saw, brother. And I saw the shooter maybe 20 feet from me. Just started shooting it.
A 21-year-old suspect is in custody. We now want to bring in El Paso's Mayor, Dee Margo, live. Mr. Mayor, our thoughts and prayers are with you and your community. What is the latest?
Well, the latest is they're still processing the scene, notifying next of kin, and then send the victims to the morgue. Families are still waiting to hear finally. This evil act will not define El Paso.
You know, Mayor, I want to commend the medical community in El Paso. I want to commend the law enforcement. The police were on the ground so quickly. Talk to us a little bit about what the feeling is on the ground right now in that community that has been shocked by this terrible tragedy.
Well, this is just so atypical for our region and the culture of our people. We're the largest binational, bicultural region in North America. We've been this way for 350 years. I have said on several occasions I do not believe this act would have ever been perpetrated by an El Pasoan. It was somebody from out of town, deranged and evil. But it's still kind of surreal. It's just anytime you lose a loved one, there's a pause and you try to figure out. Well, it's hard to imagine when they were there 24 hours previously. I think it's going to get a little tougher for us as time goes on, not so much easier, but until we get through these 20 funerals, it's going to be tough.
You know, that puts it, what a stark image, 20 funerals, that is the cost of this kind of evil, as you put it, properly said. Reports are it was about 6 minutes between the call and when the situation was contained. No shots fired. Can you tell us anything about what the officers initially encountered when they were at the Walmart? That, you know, was the shooter surrendering? What do we know about that moment?
Well, what I gathered is you're right. The call went out at 10:39 a.m. yesterday morning. Police were on scene at 10:45, 6 minutes later, and at 11:06 he was apprehended. My understanding is that a policeman pulling up to block off the street saw him and stopped him, and he had his weapon with him, but that's the gist of what I know. I haven't been fully briefed in specifics on that.
Mr. Mayor, as Americans are waking up across the country, are there things you need from the American people, from the federal level?
Well, from the federal level, we're not sure yet. Everybody's responding. We have all the law enforcement agencies, the FBI, our police department, all Texas Department of Public Safety. They're all here, going through the scene and verifying the evidence and building a case. I think